मशीनरी, मेडिसन।
मशीनरी तो बहुत बात की बात है यार। तो मुझे ये बता दो कि तुम मिनरल वाटर का इंपोर्टेड ब्रांड क्यों पी रहे हो?
आपकी वजह से।
क्या?
आपकी नाहली की वजह से।
किस बात की?
FDR की नाहली की वजह से।
कि मुल्क के पास मिनरल वाटर की इंपोर्टेड पीने की गुंजाइश नहीं है, तो यही
मैं इत्तेफाक करता हूँ, लेकिन इसको रोकना किसकी जिम्मेदारी थी? महकमों की जिम्मेदारी थी।
अच्छा,
और सबसे बड़ा महकमा जो था जिसने सारे मामले को रेगुलेट करना था, वो आपके पास
8 महीने बाद वो इख्तियार छोड़ दिया।
क्यों?
पाकिस्तान डिफॉल्ट के दहाने पर मईशत तबाह, जल्द डॉलर तीसरी सेंचुरी करने वाला है। शरह सूद 23% हो जाएगी। इकोनॉमिस्ट इंटेलिजेंस यूनिट ने तजर्बेकारों की हुकूमत का कच्चा चट्टा खोल दिया।
जो हमारा शेड्यूल है, इस पे हमारे पास पैसे नहीं है देने के लिए। 91.5 हमें देने हैं अगले 3 साल में। 85% of debts of the bank are borrowed by the government, and banks' own advances are all public deposits. So the public saving is now being borrowed by the government of Pakistan. So there is no investment in that sense.
The story of economic growth is intricately linked with the financial sector. In this documentary, we explore how financial reforms have shaped the destinies of two nations, Pakistan and China.
Economic growth is the increase in the production of goods and services in a nation. Financial development facilitates this growth by mobilizing resources, increasing investments, and encouraging technological innovation.
You won't be surprised to learn that my answer is that we need both. We need resilience and we need to have sustainable growth. And I think the key to my remarks this morning is precisely that financial stability is a predicate for sustainable growth. What we learned during the crisis is that we had stronger growth than we have prior to the crisis, than we have right now, but ultimately it proved not to be sustainable because people weren't cognizant of the risks that were being taken. So we need a resilient financial system, one that supports sustainable growth.
China initiated its financial reforms in 1978, transitioning from a centrally planned economy to a market-oriented one. The focus was on creating a socialist market economy with public ownership and effective resource mobilization. For this, they took 3 major steps. Firstly, they established the Big Four banks in 1980s, which include China Construction Bank, Bank of China, Agricultural Bank of China, and Industrial and Commercial Bank of China.
It's worth noting that the original sort of Bank of China was the Republic of China's central bank from 1912 to 1949. This was absorbed into the People's Republic, of course, and led to ultimately was one of the 3 institutions that was used to build up the People's Bank of China, which was, interestingly enough, the only bank in China from 1950 until 1978, when what we currently recognize as the Big Four Chinese banks were spun off. These include the China Construction Bank, Agricultural Construction Bank, Bank of China, etc. So with these 4 large Chinese banks that we now recognize today as some of the largest institutions in the world, used to be part of the state monolith that was the People's Bank of China. But it was felt that as part of their modernization drive, starting in 1978, that these banks should try to have a little bit more policy independence in terms of who they were going to lend money to. So even though the 4 large banks are still state-controlled, they do have a little bit of leeway in terms of who they choose to do business with and how they choose to conduct their affairs.
Secondly, they created policy banks in 1990s to focus on development-oriented financing. At last, they opened the banking sector to foreign and private investment post-2006. The challenges that they faced at that time was the dominance of state-owned banks and high level of non-performing loans. Pakistan launched its financial reforms in the 1990s to address inefficiencies in the sector. Like China, Pakistan's reforms aimed to mobilize existing infrastructure for economic growth. The measures that Pakistan took was privatization of banks to enhance competition, establishment of the Securities and Exchange Commissions of Pakistan, and reduction in the interest rate and expansion of credit to the private sector. The challenges that Pakistan faced at that time was hidden economy.
So as we discussed few minutes ago, that most of the people, and particularly those who are related to business, they are some kind of afraid of financial sectors. They don't register it, they don't open account in banking. They don't want to come in a banking channel, because in Pakistan, tax collection is one of the major problems and has remained one of the problems. Tax to GDP ratio is around 9 to 10%. The state is basically using banking data to get these people in tax net. So one of the challenges that most of the guys, particularly people who are doing business at a small level, they are afraid of this financial inclusion. So that is one of the major challenge which Pakistan is facing currently.
Sir, my question is, what are the challenges in banking spread in the rural areas?
So, as you know that over the period of time, urbanization has increased, and one major thing as a student of economics I can understand is operationalization, or you can say the break-even points for the business and particularly the banking sector. Sometimes they have to build, or you can say invest a lot of money and staff there, and when they see the amount of capital they are getting in form of cash deposits, which is quite low. So ultimately, in Pakistan and most of the developing countries, you would see a remote, or you can say digital type of transfers in rural areas particularly. So once again, it is some kind of economic issue which needs to be addressed.
The basic issue is कि आपके मुल्क में अगर एक बेसिक स्टेबिलिटी नहीं है, अगर रूल्स ऑफ द गेम पर एग्रीमेंट नहीं है कि इस तरीके से गवर्नमेंट बननी है और इस तरीके से जो है फारिग होनी है और अगले आनी है, then you are stuck in a permanent crisis. आपका जो है लेट्स से वज़ीर आज़म होता है, उसको बेसिकली मंडे को नहीं पता होता कि क्या वो फ्राइडे पे जो है अभी ऑफिस में बैठा होगा, ठीक? सो वो फिर किस किस्म की मनसूबाबंदी करेगा? वो फिर ये कोशिश करेगा कि मुझे सारी चीज़ें फ्रंट लोडेड मिल जाएं, जितना मैं जो है फ़ायदा उठा सकता हूँ शॉर्ट रन में मैं उसको उठा लूँ, और उसका नुकसान जो है फिर किसको होगा? उसको तो शायद ना हो, वो तो शायद लूट छूट के बाहर चला जाए, वो आपको और मुझे होगा.
High inflation was causing negative real interest rate, which was discouraging national saving, impacting the investment and economic growth negatively. And at last, low saving caused high debt to GDP ratio.
How does inflation in countries like Pakistan create barriers to effective financial reform and growth?
So I'm saying I'm getting 22% interest rate in form of mutual funds. So I will try to put all my money to the mutual funds where I'm getting 22% of interest rate. In a 3 to 4, 6 months, it's rolled back to 13%. Now what I have to do? If the inflation is around 16%, suppose real inflation. So what I'm getting, it is minus 3%. So real interest rate is minus in form of minus. So this is one of the problems. In Pakistan, investment, or you can say the savings which people used to have, is sometimes become difficult for them to hold their value. This particular question is related to income inequalities. We see even this problem exists in China as well. We see income inequality at a largest rate in Pakistan. And most of the people in Pakistan, they are trying to fulfill their basic needs. Now, one scheme I remember, the present government announced that the people who are earning around 40 to 50,000, they will give them 2,000 rupees. Remember the slogan? We are giving you 2,000 rupees, right? So, in 40 to 50,000, it is very difficult to run a family. If you have 2 to 3 children going for the education, at the same time you don't have money to invest, or you save, and that's that kind of things. So if there are financial reforms, keeping in view in these people, it will be difficult for any country which is have a high inflation rate, because most of the lower income class, middle income class, they will spend all of their money to just fulfill their basic needs. What are the basic needs? You can see the prices of energy in Pakistan. You can see the prices of food in Pakistan. Food in Pakistan reached at the level of 46%, which is quite high. So income is not increasing, inflation is increasing. So I don't think so it will a very easy task to have financial reforms in countries like Pakistan.
China and Pakistan adopted different strategies for financial reforms, leading to contrasting economies. China's emphasis was on state-owned banks, but Pakistan focused on privatization. China maintained low inflation rates, which helped maintain positive real interest rate. And on the other hand, Pakistan struggled with high inflation rate, leading to a negative real interest rate. In Pakistan, interest rate policies were also inconsistent, with deposits and lending rates remaining high in the early stages of reforms. China's financial debt far extended Pakistan's. Although both countries had high non-performing loans, in comparison, China had a more phased, systematic, and evolutionary approach to reform, supported by a relatively stable macroeconomic environment and stabilized control. While Pakistan's reforms were reactive and aimed at addressing inefficiencies in an already established financial infrastructure, high inflation, inconsistent policies, and low saving rates posed greater challenges.
As you know that there are two major policies, monetary policy and fiscal policy, and through monetary policy you basically control the economy, or you can say stabilize the economy with the augmentation of the fiscal policy as well. In Pakistan, particularly in case of Pakistan, they use interest rate based policy. After 2 months, State Bank announces a monetary policy that we are going to have this much of interest rate. Like presently, it is 13%. Few months back, it was 22%. So I'm just taking one side of it. If I'm an investor, suppose I have a capital in my account. So I'm saying I'm getting 22% interest rate in form of mutual funds. So I will try to put all my money to the mutual funds where I'm getting 22% of interest rate. In a 3 to 6 months, it's rolled back to 13%. Now what I have to do? If the inflation is around 16%, suppose real inflation. So what I'm getting, it is minus 3%. So real interest rate is minus in form of minus. So this is one of the problems. In Pakistan, investment, or you can say the savings which people used to have, is sometimes become difficult for them to hold their value. Money is all about value, which is given to you. Store of value, it's a basic concept of economics. So they used to invest money. That basically particular trend has been observed in Pakistan over the period of time, especially late 90s and after that. People used to spend in real estate, which is non-development investment, right? Yes. But it is the safest side of investment for the individuals. The main reason for that is people are not connected with the banks or financial sectors. As I discussed, they don't invest in the stock markets, and one of the reasons is that this is a disbelief in the market. It is understood, and it is it is common, you can say. Most of the people think in that way, that in stock market you never know in Pakistan. Sometimes it is political instability is there, but stock market is performing very well. So it is against all the odds. It never happened in any country. But in case of Pakistan, it is a normal trend. You can say there is a political turmoil in Pakistan for the last 1 year or so. But stock market is performing very well. It was around 40,000 in 1 year back. Now it is touching to 90,000. Almost double. Anyone can provide any kind of explanation, but the things a common people or common investors see in a different way. They don't believe, I guess, that this particular value will be sustainable. So people used to have, we used to say a risk-averse people in Pakistan. There are three kinds of people: risk-loving, risk-neutral, risk-averse people. So business is all about, stock markets is all about trust. But if there is a trust, you don't trust the government as well. You see that the inconsistency of monetary policy from 9% to 22% and then coming back to 13%, and it is predicted that it will come to a single digit, so 9%. But if you are not controlling inflation, the investor would not have such kind of, you can say, incentive to be linked with the banking channels, to go through the financial sectors or to study it, to understand the procedure. It is, I see in that way.
Financial development plays a critical role in economic growth. While Pakistan and China had made significant progress, their challenges underscored the importance of consistent reforms. In Pakistan, financial reforms improved resource mobilization but were hindered by instability. In China, state-owned banks' inefficiencies limited the potential of financial development to fully drive growth. There are several recommendations covered in this documentary. For Pakistan, first, we need to develop a strong financial system by digitalizing their economy, increase trust of masses on financial institutes, maintain positive real interest rates to encourage saving, diversify the financial instruments and develop the stock market, strengthen institutional governance to reduce political and economic instability. There are a few recommendations for China. First, they need to address the inefficiencies in credit allocation and reduce the non-performing loans. They need to promote private sector financing and competition in the banking sector.
The good thing is that Chinese officials seem to know exactly where they want to go, but the question is whether the government is willing to accept that market-oriented forces need to play a bigger role in the economy. Under Xi Jinping right now, there seems to be a shift towards a command-driven economy as in the past, with the private sector being tolerated rather than encouraged. On my last trips to Shanghai, I got the sense that entrepreneurs, property developers, and many people in the private sector are very concerned about government policies, whether they're going to be as conducive to private sector development as they were in the past. And this is going to require not just better macroeconomic policies, but also better institutional framework, better corporate governance, better auditing and accounting standards. So this is true for the economy more broadly, but especially for the financial sector.
Financial reform is an ongoing journey. For nations like Pakistan and China, sustained growth depends on an effective and inclusive financial sector. The journey of financial reform is far from over. For Pakistan and China, a robust and effective financial sector will remain the cornerstone of future prosperity.